ton of things to talk about this week, as we always have, including the geopolitical internet, video and Twitter, pinned grams, smart glasses, Google continuously listens, a topic that BL is dear to her heart, battered FaceApp, YouTube Affinity channels, Facebook gets a big meh, Jimmy John's dough noose, anti-mask masks, Atlas scammed, a PR pitch from hell, and you'll want to stick around for some stats on rising digital marketing budgets. Hooray! But before we get to that, we started off with the best story of the week, and BL always has that honors. BL, what do you got?
Well, I was really happy to see this story. It's a fight over the future of the internet. It's a fight that WhatsApp, Facebook, Google, and Twitter are having with the Chinese government, and they are suspending the processing of the Chinese government's request for user data from Hong Kong. The law enforcement there has a new national security law, and so in the face of China's new crackdown, which is internet censorship, all of these tech giants are refusing to turn over user data to Hong Kong. These moves have put U.S. technology titans in a potential collision course with Beijing after China fast-tracked it. All of a sudden, this came up. It includes a provision mandating that local authorities can take measures to supervise and regulate the city's previously unfettered internet. You know, in China, everybody's used to being censored on the internet, but in Hong Kong, they had been free and until now. So it's unclear at this moment what actions are going to be considered violating the law, but police arrested a man for brandishing a Hong Kong independence flag online. And so protesters are rallying against the law, and the government has threatened fines and imprisonment for service providers that fail to remove messages. And so the U.S. has revoked some trade benefits with Hong Kong related to sensitive technology, which is a crazy move in my opinion. American officials have expressed fear that the new laws signal Beijing's intention to take full control of Hong Kong, which seems to be happening in plain sight. You know, and they've had relative freedom from the mainland until very recently. And neither Facebook nor Twitter operate in China, but they do in Hong Kong, and they have offices there as well. Google has a very significant presence in Hong Kong, and they have staff that works with Chinese companies that run digital advertising outside of China. So there's a lot at stake for these companies, but I'm so glad they're doing this.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, yeah, as you said, it's happening in plain sight. It's clear what China is doing regarding Hong Kong, and it's a tragedy. You know, that the Hong Kong has been an economic engine in that area, due largely to the freedom that they enjoy. Freedom of speech and freedom of commerce, and et cetera. So good. It's a story we should follow to see whether, you know, these tech companies, because they've been known to cave to
let's hope they
governments
don't.
As well. But
this time let's hope they don't.
Yeah, well, I've got more to say on kind of a China-related technology story later in the podcast, so everyone should stick around for that debate as well. But before that, my top story is this amazing new video app. It's in beta. This is from The Verge's Casey Newton, who's always on top of things. But it's called Mmhmm. The name of the app is Mmhmm. Yep, it's perfect. And it's led by a guy named Phil Libin, who was the CEO of Evernote during their glory days. And basically, it's just a virtual camera that you shoot your video through, and then you can send that feed basically to Zoom or to Google Meet or to YouTube or wherever. But it sits on top of it sits on top of your regular video feed, and it adds all kinds of features to your video, to how you look on video. And so they have raised $4.5 million from led by Sequoia Capital. you can use it, as I said, with Zoom, with Google Meet, with YouTube, and other streaming services. But the features are amazing. So you have the still and animated virtual backgrounds like everybody has, but you can easily manipulate slides, backgrounds in your own image. So you can send your own image to different parts of the screen with this, with just a gesture on the trackpad. You move your face around the screen. You can shrink or enlarge your image. You can disappear entirely. You can post slides that appear over your shoulder. So, right here in this space where I have my guitars, I could put my slides and have a slide demonstration while I'm talking, and it's more natural, like you're actually giving a presentation, right? Or you can put the presentation full screen, and I can shrink my head down to a tiny little head in the corner of the screen and present from there, so that everybody can see the detail of the screen or whatever I'm looking at. You can cast your phone's image. So if you've got an app that you want to demonstrate, you can cast that to the screen and put it in full screen mode. It works in both landscape mode and portrait mode. You can team up and have collaborative presentations. So each of the people presenting can manipulate images and advanced screens and everything. It'll record the video that can be played back, but the viewer can also advance the presentation to wherever they want to. So if it's a slide deck and you're doing a presentation and they're only interested in one section of your presentation, they can toggle to that or advance to that part and hear just that segment.
It's
or
like
they can
speeding up a podcast.
Exactly. Or they can toggle the presenter. The presenter's annoying. You can just turn their audio off. And, you can pause and zoom in on a notable slide too. It's just incredible. There's a video. I totally encourage everybody to go to the show notes and watch the embedded video, because if they can deliver on and it looks like they're actually doing a demo. If they can deliver on what their promise is for that video, it's going to be amazing. It is available only as an invite beta right now for Mac OS Catalina users, but they're promising mobile and Windows versions in the coming months. But I signed up for a beta, and hopefully get it soon, because I really want to play around with it. I'm really excited about it, and hopefully it doesn't turn out like Blab did, but with Sequoia Capital behind it, maybe not.
What is the cost, as they say?
There's no cost. I think it's probably it's a freemium model, so they will have a free version and then tiered pricing for additional features.
I was on a call just the other day with a platform that I can't remember the name of, that has Zoom as it's on top of Zoom as well. I can't remember what it was called, but it didn't have things as cool as what you're talking about.
This is awesome.
Very cool.
Yes.
So here's a question. There was an employment ad spotted for a mysterious new Twitter subscription team that has the code name Griffon. And this is from a Verge story by Tom Warren. And Twitter appears to be working on a subscription platform. There was a job listing that reveals that Twitter has this new internal team, Griffon, that's, quote, building a subscription platform. They later changed that ad, actually, but they're currently recruiting engineers to join this subscription team. Employees, it said, will collaborate closely with the company's payments team, which means that it will, of course, not be free. Twitter generates the vast majority of its revenue through ad sales and data licensing, and a subscription service could provide exclusive content for us in exchange for a monthly fee, which, frankly, I would gladly pay. The job posting says potential Twitter subscriptions would be a first for the company, but it's not exactly clear how or when or if they're actually going to implement a subscription service. So following the publication of this article, they revised the job post. They removed the mention of a potential subscription feature. And now it says the company is simply looking for an Android engineer to work on, quote, a bevy of back-end engineering teams to build components that allow for experimentation to deliver the best possible experience to all of our users, whatever that means. So, we'll see,
Yeah, fascinating. I think I'd pay for Twitter with a lot of the features that I've long wanted, but they've never implemented. And more
edit button.
and more control over the kind of feeds that I can curate through lists and stuff like that. Ability to search just a list, so I know what people in that list are saying and nobody else. There's a lot of advanced features that make it more powerful and more appealing as a subscription service. I don't know about content. I don't know. I mean, I got to get a ton of content through Twitter as it is, but exclusive. It fascinates me that they talk about exclusive content, because that kind of goes the route of Netflix and Amazon Prime and as
everybody else is making a pot full of money, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's might be time. That makes me sad that I sold my Twitter stock, which I bought at 32.
Yeah, so we'll see. Instagram has a new feature, and this is actually very useful. This is from Social Media Today's Andrew Hutchinson. You can now pin up to 3 comments within a post on Instagram. So it's apparently designed to encourage more civil discussion by highlighting positive comments. I can see that. I mean, I guess I can see that. It could be a way of hiding negative. I mean, it is a way of hiding negative comments. If you've got your restaurant and somebody gives you a horrible review on Instagram, pinning the positive ones above that negative one pushes that out of sight and out of mind, kind of. But I just, it's just, there's a bunch of different ways that you could use it aside from reputation management that I think would be positive. So it's a nice new feature, and I'll try it out.
It's actually an interesting new feature. You know, I debated whether I was going to put this next one in good news or bad news, because Google has a history of buying things that then disappear. But Google bought an AR glasses company. The company's named North. And they bought them for reportedly $180 million. And this is from a Gizmodo story by, who is this by? By Victoria Song and Rick Osterloh. And what they said is, don't expect to see any AR glasses anytime soon. So Google announced that North's technical expertise is going to help us continue to invest in our hardware efforts and ambient computing future. And Victoria Song says, citing anonymous sources, North is essentially being stripped for parts, and Alphabet views the acquisition as an easy way to potentially re-enter the consumer smart glasses market with minimal effort or cost. But part of the problem is that the company North botched the rollout of their glasses that were called focals. And Globe and Mail subscribers, a subscribers-only story, reports that they struggle to fit Asian and Black customers' faces because their facial structures and always match the sizes that North made available. And there were problems fitting people with longer eyelashes, and that's a problem with glasses. And the company had issues quickly fitting the glasses with prescription lenses. So apparently unnamed sources are saying executives were aware of the problems, and they thought that about 20% of people simply couldn't wear focals. But North Focals had other problems, similar to those faced by everybody else who tries to make consumer smart glasses. Your experience was famous, Dave, but focals by North were notable because they targeted consumers when most companies had pivoted their AR expertise toward enterprise. So in the last few months, there have been a lot of rumors that Apple is gearing up with its own AR smart glasses sometime in 2023. And I'm quite certain that if they do that, they will be great. But Song says all the evidence points to the fact that consumers are not sold on the idea of smart glasses or AR headsets. And just last week, for example, Bose announced that they were shutting down the Bose AR division. Like North, they launched Bose frames. Those were smart sunglasses in 2019. Magic Leap floundered when they had disappointing sales of their first generation headset. They laid off half their workforce in April, and they have confirmed that they're heading toward an enterprise-first strategy. So long story short, News of an impending North sale seems right on track with the fate of other consumer-facing AR glasses. However, in the enterprise situation, in factories and in large companies, those AR glasses are already in use. And so there's a huge market there, and I guess they're right to go in that direction. But I personally would like a pair of AR glasses that, were just like sunglasses and that worked.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually, I think. Going from Google Glass, which like the fashion sense of Google is they don't have one, so that was a problem. To spectacles with Snapchat, which actually look
you
like
got those, didn't you?
Yeah, and they're great.
Yeah.
They just look like normal sunglasses. And I think we'll get there. It's just I think they're right to focus on industry and figure out use cases for specific instances like firefighting, or what we covered that a couple of episodes ago, and then figure out because you can then just you have a very narrow use case for using them. You can figure out what the problems are around that in a much limited sense than everybody's problems, right?
Yeah, I know, for example, that in Epson factories, they have been using AR glasses for several years. So, I don't know what other companies or industries are using them. I just know that they really help their manufacturing and technology development. So, yeah, enterprise will come before us peasants.
Yeah. This next story, you're gonna love this next story, BL. This is about Google Assistant and Google Home. This is from VentureBeat's Kyle Wiggers, who reports that they've announced some tools for their developer partners who are developing for Google Assistant. Which is obviously the voice platform for the smartphone, as well as it powers the smart speakers. It's used by over 500 million people monthly in 30 languages across 90 countries. One of the features that they announced is something called continuous match mode, which allows Google Assistant to respond immediately to a user's speech, which by recognizing specific words and phrases. It's rolling out in the next few months. It recognizes specific words that developers define. So when you're developing an app for Google Home, you would set these specific words or phrases as basically alerts for Google Assistant. Which means that it's always listening, right?
Well, that's exactly why it's not in my house.
But then Mike will announce that it will remain enabled, so users don't have to employ additional prompts. So it won't be listening without your knowledge. It'll tell you that it's going to start listening without requiring the alert letter. But you can tell it to stop by saying cancel, exit, quit, stop, or pause. The recording can continue for a maximum of 180 seconds, but developers set the duration based on their requirements for a particular app. And the continuous match mode respects account level privacy settings. So the privacy settings you set in your Google Home, it's going to respect, which it should. But it got me to think. I mean, this this is the thing that freaks you out. Although you have Siri, that having a constant listening, and it freaks a lot of people out. But the way that people interact with this technology, you're asking questions of your smart speaker, it becomes, you expect more of a natural interaction. And in order for that to happen, and people are going to want this, because
no, I'm not.
Google gives me when I ask Google a question, it gives me an answer and I say thank you, and it doesn't respond. That's annoying. Same thing with Echo. But if you have to alert it, if you have to say okay, or the prompt word for the Echo,
yeah, the one I'm not allowed to say, it's
not a conversation, So I think we'll see this. I think this is where people want to see their smart speakers become more natural.
I don't want that. Okay, so this is a really clever campaign. This is from an Ad Age Creativity story by Alexandra Jardine. And it's a domestic violence campaign that uses FaceApp to turn men into abused women. Using the hashtag, what would it be like? Men in Colombia used FaceApp to turn themselves into pictures of abused women. And that was to draw attention to this huge problem of domestic abuse and murder of women during the lockdown in Colombia. So horrifically, 104 women in Colombia were murdered during the COVID lockdown. And so the agency VMLYNR used FaceApp, and it allows the men to turn themselves into their female doppelgangers and vice versa, to get men to think about what it would be like to be an abused woman. And it launched on the foundation's Instagram feed using FaceApp photos to portray abused women with the hashtag, it would be like. And influencers and a lot of men were invited to create their own posts and share their own photos with added wounds and bruises and adding the hashtag. And it's a very clever thing. I'm not sure what it does to actually stop the violence, but it's a clever idea to bring attention to it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to follow up with. It sounds exactly like a great awareness campaign that is not going to do anything ultimately to stop violence against women.
Well, maybe it'll stop one person.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if it stops one person, that helps. If it keeps one woman alive, that helps. But yeah, it's one of those things that you go, but good idea. But yeah. So do you have more good news?
I don't. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm done.
So this is interesting. It's new data for YouTube video creators. YouTube Analytics is going to start showing what other channels and other videos your audience is watching. So this is from Creator Insider, and members of the Creator Tech team, who are really not named, make videos. And so in the audience info section of our channel, we'll see a card with details about other channels and videos that our audience watches. So you'll only see it if your channel has enough data, and it's going to roll out in a couple of weeks. But Creator Insider is fascinating, and we're now subscribed to it, Dave. It's an informal experimental YouTube channel. It's not official, and it shares information from YouTube Creator technical team with the creator community. So I look forward to seeing that. I think that'll be very interesting because it will help you understand what your audience wants.
Yeah, I am definitely looking forward to checking that out. It will help you in identifying content that will appeal to your audience.
Yeah.
It'll also help you in identifying how to target your advertising to reach your audience,
Yeah, because you'll know what they're into.
Yeah.
So I have another one, and I first wrote about Google Project Loon in 2013. And that was called Balloon-Powered Internet for Everyone Everywhere. That was what was promised. So here we are in 2020, and Project Loon has launched a fleet of balloons that is providing internet service to very remote areas of Kenya. It's from a CNN story by Bethlehem Feliki. So the balloons are launched from locations in the United States, and they're navigated to Kenya using wind currents. And according to Project Loon, more balloons are going to be released as more experience in flying over Kenya is gained. So each balloon is made out of a roughly tennis court-sized piece of polyethylene sheets. And the project was accelerated because of the pandemic and the need to be connected to jobs and communities and emergency services. And so the fleet, the project is using a fleet of 35 or more balloons floating 20 kilometers above the ground. They're in constant motion in the stratosphere, and they provide 4G LTE service spanning 50,000 square kilometers across central and western Kenya. It's really a fantastic project. Facebook is experimenting with similar technology, but Google seems to beat them to it. And so I wrote about it in 2013. I'll put a link to that. And I wrote about it again in 2015. And, you know, they were used during emergencies. They were used during hurricanes. They've been used during earthquakes in various parts of the world. But, you know, this is this is the future. Hopefully, we get rid of our Comcast and RCN.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it would be nice if they would put a balloon over my house because I'd like
Sure
some competition. We
Yeah.
don't have any in the United States, so that would
We
be
do
nice.
in New York, but it's all the same crap, you know. It doesn't matter which your provider is; you have the same issues. So I don't know if you remember True Blood, the vampire show.
I loved it.
I loved True Blood. So
Ah.
when the vampires wanted to sort of hypnotize somebody or have them not remember what was said, what they did was called, they glamored them. So this is what Mark Zuckerberg tried to do last week to representatives of the NAACP, the ADL, and other human rights groups. And so when they left, they said that that nothing got done at the summit. And this is from an Ad Age article by Garrett Sloan. And it really, Zuckerberg reminded me of glamoring. What Derek Johnson, the president of the NAACP, said, what we received was the very same thing we entered into the meeting with, nothing. So the NAACP, the Anti-Defamation League, Color of Change, and Free Press had a video conference call with media involved after meeting with Zuckerberg and other Facebook executives, and the organizations organized a boycott of Facebook advertising for the month of July, and they claim about 1,000 brands and entities are on board. And you know, Facebook has 8 million advertisers, so no one boycott or big boycott has huge impact on their bottom line, but it definitely has an impact on their reputation. So Facebook says it already catches 89% of all hate speech, though through artificial intelligence, but even with claims like that, the civil rights organizations want more clarity in what Facebook defines as hate speech and more oversight on how it monitors this activity. So Facebook's got it's a cesspool and it's got a long way to go, and they don't appear to be taking this responsibility seriously enough.
Well, it's the same playbook he's always had. It's just wait for another story to come along, do nothing or do very little, do some surface level things to make it seem like you're doing something, and then
say we have to do better. You have to say we know we have to do better. Yeah. You have to be like very, yes, we understand we must do better, and then do nothing.
Yeah, this Facebook, this advertising boycott, I agree that, it's a drop in the bucket, but there are big names and there are a lot of them that have joined this boycott. So
more than 1,000.
There's serious PR damage that's being done.
Yeah.
So, that is, the pressure needs to be kept up but I am eternally skeptical that anything significant will change as long as Zuckerberg is in charge of that company.
Facebook's down today, by the way.
Nah.
So what you got? Shiny objects?
It does, yeah.
So this is a cool one. This is called Askaway, and it's an open source remote work tool. It was developed by My Planet, and it allows businesses to, in Zoom conferences, in large conferences, to easily and efficiently ask questions during these conferences that can be used alongside the conference service, Zoom, Google Hangouts, BlueJeans, etc. And attendees can upvote the questions. So what usually happens in one of these conferences is in the chat, there's all kinds of comments and a question, and then 40 comments and a question. So here it separates the questions, and users can upvote the ones that they think are important. And My Planet is actually a very interesting company, but this is open source and definitely worth a look.
Cool. I have been in conferences where there's the running chat list, but they've got a separate one for Q&A too. So they're separating those two streams. But I really like the idea of having the viewers upvote the questions.
Yeah.
So that's a great feature.
Because the questions are repeated.
Yeah. This is a story from Axios's Erica Pandy, who reports about how Microsoft is providing skills training, digital skills training, for 25 million people around the globe via LinkedIn. So Microsoft owns LinkedIn. LinkedIn scoured their data on job postings and hiring trends and identified the top 10 most in-demand jobs post-pandemic. And they created out of that free LinkedIn learning paths for those types of jobs. So they are, you can become a software developer. There's a learning path for that. Become a sales rep, become a project manager, IT administrator, a customer service specialist, a digital marketing specialist, IT support, data analyst, financial analyst, graphic designer. Those are the top 10. And they've got free learning paths for each of those. LinkedIn is also sharing, they've got a free real-time labor market data and skills insights for policymakers, for governments, business leaders to understand what's going on in their local markets. So you can find out what companies are hiring, the top jobs that companies are hiring for, the trending skills for those jobs. And they have an interactive tool that you can use. It's at linkedin.com/workforce. The data is available for 180 countries and regions. So there's 150 plus cities, 30 plus countries. You can search by country or region and download the data sets as well. So it's pretty cool. This is tied to your China story earlier. This is from CNET's Queenie Wong and Laura Hatala.
I love those names.
Yeah, aren't they great? This is, well, you've heard that a lot of people are covering it. The Trump administration is considering banning TikTok. TikTok, of course, is owned by ByteDance, which is a Beijing tech company. It's been downloaded more than 2 billion times, according to Sensor Tower, with 623 million coming during the first half of this year. India is its largest market, and India has banned the app. That's followed by Brazil and then the U.S. China does not actually have, Chinese users can't actually get TikTok. There's a separate app, domestic version of it called Douyin that is being provided in China. So the Trump administration is considering banning TikTok. The U.S. Army and Navy have already banned TikTok as a security threat. The government, if the administration were to do that, they would have to find some legal reason to do so. Apple and Google to make them to pull TikTok from their app stores, and those companies could put up a fight as well. So there's a lot to consider there, but there's some legit reasons for concern. And it's China has a long history of stealing intellectual property from businesses, of coercing trade secrets from companies that want to do business there. They have their own surveillance state, and they're exporting the infrastructure of that surveillance state to other countries. As I said, the Army and Navy have banned the app for security reasons. Wells Fargo and Amazon have asked their employees not to use the app for all of the very obvious reasons. It's an app that's collecting a bunch of data. I have TikTok. I rarely ever use it, but I don't have any reason to recommend it for any clients or anything at the moment. But I'd have to point out to them it's a surveillance app for the Chinese government. On the other hand, it is the Trump administration that's wanting to ban the app, which is, they're hostile to freedom of speech. They've got their own political reasons for poking China. And they've got the campaign was being punked by TikTok users. So you got to wonder if there's some revenge going on here, which is not inconceivable coming from the Trump administration. So just interesting geopolitical dynamics, campaign dynamics going on there. I don't know what to think of it. I've been highly skeptical of TikTok to begin with.
Everything that the Trump administration is.
So let's wrap this up. Daily numbers. This is spending data on how digital budgets will increase next year in 2021. This is from Media Post's Lori Sullivan, who reports on Gartner's 2020 to 2021 CMO spending survey. It is digital advertising for B2C marketing budgets. They're expected to grow by 78% in aggregate in 2021. and the CEOs break it out, cite specific digital or specific budgets. So 78% cite rising budgets for social in 2021, 71% for mobile, 71% for websites, 69% for SEO, 65% for partner and affiliate marketing, 64% for paid search, 63% for email marketing, 58% for offline advertising, and 57% for, wait for it, obviously, event marketing. So at the bottom of the list is event marketing.